Friends, what would happen if you are in the ocean with your board and suddenly the ocean water disappears, leaving you with a barren and desolate land? How much would this scare you? And where has the ocean water gone? Will it return to this ocean once again or not? Let's find the answers to all these questions from this story. You will really enjoy this film, which is a sci-fi adventure film named Survive. So let's learn about today's story. The story begins by showing us a family that has come to the ocean to celebrate their son, Ben's birthday. This was the Caribbean Sea where everything was going perfectly normal. Ben's mom is enjoying swimming in the ocean, while Ben and his father are busy fishing. But then suddenly Ben's mom felt something in the ocean, as if a large object was circling around Julian. When she looks into it, everything seems perfectly normal, but then suddenly something pulls her underwater, and the instruments on her companion's board also start behaving usually. Ben and Tom were not paying attention to this because they were busy fishing, while the drowning Julian was trying to save herself and calling out to Tom, but no one noticed her. Here, Julian feels that the ocean water is receding behind her, along with herself. Now Tom also notices this. He sees Julian, and therefore he jumps into the water to save her, while Ben starts the engine of the board to bring it closer to them. Now Tom saves Julian from drowning, and after that, Ben and Casey pull both of them onto the boat, thus saving Julian's life. Now on the boat, Tom gets angry at his daughter Casey. He says, "Where was your attention? You know that whoever goes swimming needs to be watched. So why did you break this rule? What would have happened if something had happened to your mother?" Now Casey is also guilty about this, but her apology is ignored, and after that, they celebrate her son Ben's birthday. Just then, Casey receives a call from her boyfriend, and she notices that a huge storm is approaching the city behind her boyfriend. Seeing this, Casey becomes a bit worried because they were not in a safe place at that moment. She informs her mom about this, after which they start checking the safety of their boat. While checking, they notice that many whale sharks are circling around their boat, and Tom knows that these sharks behave this way before a big, terrifying storm arrives. They had already sensed the approaching storm, but before that, they had to check the boat. Their boat is jolted, prompting Tom to dive and check. He sees that there is a very large dent underneath the boat, which must have been caused by a big shark. After checking, when Tom comes back, he is badly injured. And seeing this, Julian stitches his wounds. Here, Tom tells his family that because of the dent caused by the shark, they won't be able to move the board forward, and now their only option left was to call for help, but there were no signals. Their board's communication was not picking up any signals. Now, in this difficult time, Tom checks their food and water supplies. They had only enough drinking water for 4 days and nothing else, but they were reassured by the fact that people were on a shipping route and someone would see them passing by. During their conversation, a loud noise is heard from outside. When they went outside to check, a large meteoroid was coming towards them, could collide with their ship, and to avoid it, Tom quickly starts the engine of their board. But he knew that if he did that, his board would be destroyed, and that's exactly what happened. Their board's engine was ruined, and another meteoroid started heading towards them. Now, to save themselves, they couldn't do anything else, so they went to the lower part of the board and put on life jackets. After this, they heard a loud noise, and all of them fainted. When they regained consciousness, they found that they were alive, although they had been injured. The surprising thing was that there was now a very large hole in their board, but water was not coming in through it. Now, when the whole family comes out of their board and looks around, they are astonished by the sight. There were fish lying on the ground around their board, and their board was in a rocky, mountainous area, as if the people had arrived on another planet. This place had completely changed. Where there was water until last night, it now looked like high mountains and pits. Now, Tom quickly takes out his compass and starts looking at the directions, and he realizes that something must have gone wrong with the ground. The poles of the Earth have changed. The North Pole has become the South Pole, while the South Pole has moved to where the north was. Therefore, where people used to live, the land has now become the sea, as all the water from the ocean has gone there. And after realizing this, everyone was astonished. And the terrifying thing Tom mentioned is that all the people who were alive on the land must have been killed. Now Case becomes very scared by this. She locks herself in the cabin. Well, now Julian starts gathering food for her child, and Tom lets all the birthday balloons fly in the air, so that if anyone is alive, they can see them. After this, Tom tries to contact someone via the radio. He hoped that there would be no response from the other side. But surprisingly, he receives a response. This response was given to him by 11 captains who also knew about the story of the ocean shifting because he was in his submarine just like Tom's family. The captains tell Tom that the poles of the earth that have changed will return to their positions in about a week. This means that the ocean will return to its place after a week and the waves will be very dangerous. So the captain tells Tom to look for a high place and go there, because your chances of survival will be higher. Hearing this, Julian immediately tells her children to start packing. Tom tells the captain that the chances are better inside your submarine, so will you keep my children there? The captain says, sure brother, I want to do that, but I can't because one of my men was killed inside my submarine, and there is only space for 2 people here. I can keep 1 man, but still, 1 will remain outside. Now, Tom requests the captain to please somehow keep both of my children, and in return, I will do whatever you say. The captain agrees to his request. After this, Tom estimates the location of the submarine and tells his wife that we will reach there in just 2 days, meaning we can safely get our children there before the water of the sea returns, and in this way, we can save both of our children's lives. Now, the next morning, the whole family was ready for their journey. Just then, Tom sees a strange man coming this way with a dock in the distance. Tom realizes that he should help that man, so he gives him water. After drinking Tom's water, that man attacked him instead of thanking him. And Julia, who was standing far away, also sees this. The man attacks Tom with a knife lying nearby and takes his life. Now she couldn't save her husband, but she quickly goes inside the board and locks both of her children in the cabin. After this, she gives someone a flare and says to use it only when absolutely necessary. While they were talking, that man reaches their board, and to escape, Julian goes inside the bathroom, where she starts to stitch up her wounds. Now the killer starts searching their board, and as soon as he finds food there, he begins to eat, indicating that he has been hungry for several days. After eating, when he goes to check on Julian, he finds that the cabin from where the sound was coming is empty. Actually, Julian had escaped through a hole in the board, but the man's dog spots her. And now, in desperation, Julian has to kill the dog to get away, and she hides under the board. Although she doesn't encounter the killer, when he sees his dog dead, he realizes that Julian is outside the board. As soon as he climbs down from the board to catch her, Julian goes back up and uses a broken glass to make her way back inside the board. However, shortly after, she is caught again by that man. He grabs her by the hair and beats her badly. He starts to torment Julian. Now she begins to fight back against the killer to save herself. As she was watching all this, she remembers that this is a good opportunity to use the flare gun. She fires the flare, which doesn't harm the man much, but their board starts to catch fire. Now Julian quickly gets out to save her 2 children. As she exits the boat, once again the killer attacks Julian, but this time Julian kicks him back. Well, now outside, Kaisi and Bane start crying upon seeing their father's dead body. They had not expected at all what had happened to them. Bane blames himself, thinking that if he hadn't let go of the color, flowers and balloons, this man wouldn't have come here. Now here, Julian was also crying while hugging her husband. Just then, she sees that the killer had come out from their hastily made board, and now it was not safe for them to stay here. Therefore, she runs away with both her children. While running, these people were quite tired, so they stopped to rest behind a hill. They thought that perhaps the killer had left them behind here, and Bane was still crying. Kaisi encourages him by offering clean water to drink, but Bane refuses to drink. While they were discussing all this, Julian noticed that the killer was still behind them. Now therefore, the 3 of them quickly start running away to escape from the killer. While running, they were tired, but whenever they looked back, the killer was still behind them. Now they do not stop. They keep running continuously and eventually reach a place where there was poisonous water. Although anything could happen while passing through here, Julia still orders her children to go through this place. As they were leaving this place, their condition worsened, and Julia realized that Bane had become dehydrated. They had a few last drops of water which they gave to Bane, but there was hardly any water left. Now Bane's sister had completely lost hope. She was not sure if they would be able to survive here or not. She had accepted her death and urged both of them to do the same, but she scolded Julian to be quiet and to do as she says. We will move forward and I know I will save you. At Julian's urging, they started walking again, and as they moved forward, they saw a plane that must have crashed into the ocean years ago. They hide inside the plane, and Julian looks at the family photo. One last time that they took last night. Seeing this photo, everyone remembers Tom. It was quite late at night, and they were tired. Bane and his sister had fallen asleep, but Julian was restless. She stepped outside the plane, but she said that even in the darkness of the night, the killer had not stopped pursuing them. The killer had seen her too. Here, Julian pretended to sleep, and as the killer approached her, she attacked him. This time, Julian was furious. She attacked him so fiercely that she ended up killing him, and finally, the threat was over. Julian also fell into a peaceful sleep. The next morning, when they woke up, they saw that the killer's body was in very bad condition, which made them realize that this empty ocean was also very dangerous. They had to reach the place where the captain's supplies were. Now, as Julian was looking at her map, Bane was extremely thirsty, so he went ahead to drink water from a nearby pond. Although Julian had forbidden him from drinking water there because it was toxic, Bane was so thirsty that he ignored Julian. Julian had to grab her head and pull her out of the water because she didn't listen. Now, due to drinking water, Bane had fallen ill, so Julian and Casey built a shelter there. Just as these people had rested for a while, Julian started hearing some strange noises here. When she went outside and looked, she saw many crabs approaching them, prompting them to start running, and in the distance, a very large ship was visible. This was a cargo ship that had many containers inside. Many people had taken refuge in these containers. As soon as the three of them were seen, all those people locked themselves inside a container, and Julian went to the container and started pleading. She also demanded they open the door. A large, terrifying army of crabs was behind them. To escape from them, Julian and her two children climbed on top of the container. As Julian climbs up, a crab bites her, but she somehow pushes it away and manages to climb up. Now Casey ties her wound with her staff, after which she faints. Then Casey and Ben see that the crabs have cut into the container and attacked the people inside. Now they try to kill the crabs with the weapons they have, but there were too many crabs. They can't stand against them. Anyway, the next morning, Julian regained consciousness. She found that her two children were not here. She was terribly scared because it was such a dangerous and desolate place that anyone could easily die here. Julian starts crying out of fear of losing them, but then she sees Casey and Ben coming from a distance who had actually gone in search of food and weapons. Well, now the crabs were not here because they had moved on. Seeing this, Julian feels a sense of relief. Now Julian tends to her crab bite wounds, while her sister sets up the weapons they have gathered. Well, after this, Julian contacts the captain, who tells her that he has also been attacked by sea creatures and is now severely injured, so he cannot help her. He also informs Julian that the seawater is about to return to its place, which is why these sea creatures have come back here. These people also did not know which direction to go to leave, because in all the chaos they had lost their map. Therefore, the captain fires into the air with his flare, and Ben sees him. These people now start moving quickly towards the submarine, but it seems impossible to reach there because they have to pass through a toxic waste area where they could get sick and their lives could be at risk. Now everyone started to doubt their mother's ability to save them, so how she begins to argue with her mother, and Julian scolds her children, telling them to move forward. As they move forward from there, their luck deceives them once again. A landslide begins, and a large rock falls in front of Julian, who was at the back. She gets stuck there and doesn't want to move forward without her mother, but they swear that she will save her brother, and she starts moving forward with her brother. When they reach the submarine, they find no one there. They start knocking loudly on the meeting room door, but then a captain comes from behind, who is badly injured, and he tells them that my chances of survival are not high, and that 3 people can sit in the submarine. Hearing this, Julian quickly turns back as the wave of crabs starts coming towards her again, where she begins to shoot them all with her gun, but after a short while, her blood runs out. Before anyone can attack her, someone reaches out to help her from above. And finally, with their assistance, Julie manages to get out of there. And these people quickly run to the submarine. Now these people sit inside the submarine without wasting much time, and the terrifying wave of crabs was also behind them. And then a huge terrifying sea wave appears to be coming towards them. It looked frighteningly high. It crashes into their submarine with a loud force, causing them to lose consciousness. When Julian regained consciousness, it was surprising that their submarine was not in the water, but that huge sea wave had swept their submarine to a city that had been devastated. It was clear from the sight that humanity had been wiped out. And with this scene, the film concludes this story. Friends, if you like this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. See you in the next amazing video like this.